our alumni and our current students, and you'll get to hear a little bit from each of them about where they work, the kind of work they do, and how they got there, so you can see the wide variety of amazing special libraries that exist. And keep in mind that this is just a small sample. There are many, many, many different kinds of special libraries that you could potentially work for at some point with your MLIS or your MARA. So in just a second, I'll get that started, but I did want to let you know that after the panel, it'll probably last about a half an hour, we're going to phase into just kind of an open house, a chat. You can ask questions. We can do like we were doing just a few minutes ago, comparing notes about classes and getting to know each other. You can ask us about joining if you're not already a Special Libraries Association Student Chapter member. It's a free membership open to all iSchool students, and we can tell you about that. And I'm furiously writing down all of your names to put into a hat. Yes, I actually have a hat here. And we're going to be drawing some door prize drawings and giving out prizes. So stick around after the panel and hang out and get to know us. Yes, of course I have a hat. I love hats. And get to know us a little bit, and stick around for some door prizes. And the way it'll work is I have the door prizes. I'm looking at them right now, and I will have to get addresses from the winners and mail those to you. So let's get started with our first presenter tonight. Let me get my list. And it looks like Laura. Laura is currently our Assistant Membership Director. She's a new officer to our group, and she's going to talk to you about the academic library position that she works in. Take it away, Laura.
Hi. I'm hoping okay, yes, there we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Dublé, and I work for Libraries and Cultural Resources at the University of Calgary in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where it is currently a balmy -10 degrees Fahrenheit. Libraries and Cultural Resources consists of the main library and many smaller special libraries. The Taylor Family Digital Library is the main library and supports both digital and traditional services. That include the Learning Commons, Digital Media Commons, which is an extremely extensive retro video game collection, spatial and numeric data services, a visualization studio, and archives and special collections. This library was built in 2012, and at the same time an off-site storage was built. 70% of our collection went to this storage facility, which is called the High Density Library, or we call it the HDL. This storage facility is almost full, and we are currently just breaking ground on an extension. We have many branch libraries that specialize in law, business, education, medical, and military studies. And within the main library, there is also the Canadian Music Center and a museum called the Nickel Galleries. I started in the Bibliographic Service Unit as a copy cataloger on the Science and Professional team. At that time, catalogers were trained on the job to use AACR2. The work was split up according to subjects and languages. Later on, the teams were reorganized by format, and I worked on the serials team. I cataloged journals and became the conference expert. I got very tired of cataloging conferences, so I begged my manager for different work. So I was fortunate to be one of the first electronic resource catalogers at the U of C. In preparation for the opening of the Taylor Library and the High Density Library, I was part of the team that planned for the move. Everything going to the HDL had to have a barcode because only the barcode is used for retrieval. All of the books are shelved by size rather than by classification. And I've put a picture there for you to see. The books are put by size into these trays, and then they're put into the high bay. We had always placed the barcode inside the book, and now it needed to be duplicated and put on the back of the book. We printed out lists of monographs from the catalog and then used these lists to create rows and rows and rows of barcodes that had the call number and barcode on them. We then hired large numbers of student assistants and as well as staff members devoted their time to going through the stacks and barcoding the books. It took about 3 years. In addition to this, we had to add copies into the catalog for every individual journal issue that was going to the HDL. This was another huge project, and we are still working on it today. I also have provided training and assistance to all the branch libraries on their various HTL projects. When the new library opened, it was decided to switch to RFID tagging rather than continuing to use tattle tape security. I came in one day and was told that I and one of my colleagues would be in charge of this project. It was quite an undertaking, and again, we hired student assistants to work through the stacks and RFID tag every book. In 2012, I became the coordinator for the Special Resources Metadata team, and I coordinated the work of 7 staff members. This team did the cataloging for special collections. We did all the games, video, and DVD cataloging, plus we processed all the archival collections. We also helped the museum staff standardize and clean up their metadata for their numismatics collections, and we worked on many digitization projects. In the summer of 2016, teams were reorganized again, and I moved to Archives and Special Collections, where I now work as the metadata coordinator. Archives and Special Collections is made up of 3 quite distinct units: the Canadian Architectural Archives, Special Collections, and University Archives. The Canadian Architectural Archives has a mandate to collect the works of 20th century Canadian architects. This includes collecting the total output of an architectural firm, including drawings, photographs, textual records, models, presentation panels. As you can imagine, these are really large collections. Special Collections has both print and archival collections. Last year, Universal Music Canada donated the archive of EMI Music Canada, which includes artists such as Tom Cochrane, Corey Hart, Helix, and Glass Tiger, to name a few. And we received a Mellon Foundation grant to design effective methods for reformatting, preserving, and administering access to the audio recordings. So I've been helping to design a mega metadata template that will include administrative, preservation, technical, and descriptive metadata. It's been quite a challenging project. In my position, I work with the archivist to complete archival arrangement and description projects. We've recently implemented an archival database which uses an open source software program called ATOM, which stands for Access to Memory. We have uploaded all of our collection and phone level records, and now we're working on uploading the series files and in some cases item level records. I work with the IT department to validate the fields before the uploads. And I'm also fortunate I get to work on the Archives and Special Collections reference room desk. I really like to see how the patrons use our collections, and it is always very gratifying when someone is using a resource that I have personally cataloged. In addition to all this, I also work with the digitization unit to create metadata templates. So as you can see, my position has changed over the years, and I've always found that working in the academic library setting is a very exciting and challenging place to work. I've always thought that I work in a revolving door, and each time I get out, I get to start on a new project. Thanks very much, and have a good evening.
Thanks so much, Laura. Sorry, my phone was ringing there for a second. So, Laura, do you want to take some questions, or do you want to wait to the end?
I don't mind. If you'd like to take questions now, that's fine with me.
Okay. People might remember their questions a little more easily if we do them one by one. Anybody have a question for Laura? Looks like Jessica's typing something.
I have a question.
Okay.
Was there anything that you studied or any particular class that you've taken that has helped you in this job or in these various jobs that you've done, or something that you recommend somebody take if they were interested in getting into this type of work?
I have found the metadata courses really helpful, but I have to be honest, I found all of the courses really helpful because I learned on the job. So basically I learned this is what you do. I didn't learn why you did it. So now I actually find it really exciting to be taking all of the background and the history, and I get really excited about the nerdiest things. So I would recommend just doing a really broad course base so that you could work in almost any location, I guess.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, it looks like we're ready for Basha. I'll introduce Basha. Basha is our immediate past president. Oh, I probably forgot to mention at the beginning I'm the current president for the group, but Basha's our awesome immediate past president who's led this group bravely and wisely for the past few years. She's been very involved with the student chapter for quite a long time. And she is involved in medical librarianship, and she's going to take some time now and talk to you about that. All yours, Basha.
Thank you, Dana. So, can I actually advance the slide? Oh. Okay. Well, that's not my slide. There it is. So thank you very much for inviting me, and it's really funny. Something in the way that Dana mentioned about how long I've been involved with the group made me think that maybe the group is sick and tired of me, but that's okay. Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming. And I'm here to talk to you about medical librarianship. Thank you, ladies. To start our conversation, I selected a Joanne Marshall study on impact of medical librarians and medical libraries on patient care, and sort of give you just a snapshot of those statistics there. And I'm trying to impress you with those statistics. As you can see from those 3/4 of the survey respondents in this particular study, and the link to the study is at the bottom of the slide there, stated that the information provided by the library changed the way that they treated the patient, and that help from librarians has helped prevent some really serious adverse effects, as you can see, including patient mortality. I should mention here that this is only one study, but that there are a number of other studies showing how medical libraries benefit their host institutions. And you can look those up actually on the Medical Library Association website. I probably have the link somewhere, and I'll be happy to share it. That's right, yes, Dr. D at the last Medical Library Association in Toronto was kind enough to introduce Brian and me to Joanne Marshall, and I have to say I totally fangirled her, and I think I scared the living daylights out of her, but in the best possible way, I'm hoping. So what do librarians do to help the physicians? How do we get to these statistics? And do medical librarians only help doctors? And what do we do in general? Well, that all depends on what kind of medical librarian you are. There are academic medical librarians, hospital librarians, corporate medical librarians working for drug companies, for example, or medical devices companies, pharmacy librarians, and nursing librarians, and we all specialize in what we do, and everybody does something a little bit different. I am a hospital librarian, and I will talk about that. So, as a hospital librarian, I do a lot of literature searching, medical and nursing literature. And this is what those statistics from Joanne Marshall's study refer to and tell us, is that we help hospital librarians search for information for direct patient care, and this is what's reflected here. But we also do searching for hospital procedures and policies. So, for example, nursing procedures. When you go to, hopefully you won't be admitted to the hospital, but if you are, the everyday procedures that nurses work on and policies on the nursing floor usually have to be evidence-based, and that evidence comes from searches of medical literature. We also do research support, and sometimes we do business and administration purpose searches as well. So it can be a little bit of sort of competitive intelligence to see what other health systems are doing, or information, for example, on how to open a brand new hospital unit. We recently opened something called the Clinical Decision Unit, which is kind of in between the ER and an actual hospital unit, where patients who are not well enough to be sent home but are not sick enough to be admitted to the hospital can comfortably rest and be under observation before a decision is made on what to do with them. So, for example, when the decision was made to investigate that, opening that kind of a unit, we did the first line searching on every aspect of it, really, from administrative to financial to how to staff it and everything else. Well, we also provide services to patients and search for information for patients. We help them find reliable medical information in lay language, but we also help them through their treatment by providing professional literature. Some medical librarians, and this can be true of academic medical librarians as well, are embedded librarians. This means that they actually participate in patient rounding and provide searches right at the bedside. So they're quite involved with direct patient care. We don't do that at my hospital right now. We just don't have the staffing levels to offer this service. But it's certainly something that we always keep in the back of our mind, and that may change someday. Medical librarians also do a lot of teaching. You might be surprised to find out that we do information literacy training. We help nurses and residents and other hospital employees learn how to find and appraise literature. For example, I am involved in teaching evidence-based practice and nursing research to nurses and evidence-based medicine to residents. Many of our nurses and other employees are also in school, and so we frequently work with them in a fashion that's pretty similar to academic librarians, where we show them how to find resources and how to ask a research question, etc. If you haven't taken your Info 285 yet, please make sure to do that. It's an excellent class. I took it with Cheryl Stenstrom, and it was really invaluable to my work. On my job, I've even developed actual information literacy instructional modules for several different programs that are offered by our health system at the University of Great Falls in Montana. And these modules were for informatics certificate classes, but also RN to BSN, which is, there's a requirement coming down the pipe for all nurses to have a Bachelor of Science, Bachelor's of Science in Nursing degree. So that's something that we're helping with. And now the health system has developed several master's degrees programs in healthcare leadership. And so we're also involved in creating modules for those. I also do database administration. Hospital libraries have lots of online resources, but usually not a dedicated IT department. I work in a large health system with libraries across 5 states and in a primarily electronic collection. As you can imagine, it would be kind of hard to assure sort of a equitable distribution of resources if the vast majority of our resources were printed. So I administer all of the online resources for our libraries, and that includes actually the library website, a discovery tool, several databases, the OPAC, and 2,000 plus online books, and over 700 online journals. And one thing to also remember about special libraries is that marketing and outreach are really important parts of the job. When you work in a special library, every encounter with a library user, or really anyone within the organization, is a marketing opportunity. And we do market relentlessly. So now what does that mean? Because I know that marketing is sometimes viewed kind of as a dirty word. and librarians are not traditionally very good at it. However, marketing libraries is very important. And really what I mean here is the meaning of the word as used by Peter Drucker. And that's a name that you should be familiar with from your Info 204 classes. And that is making your patrons or potential patrons aware of how you can make their lives easier and how the library can be valuable to them. So not selling something, but inserting the library into your host institution. For example, one of the outreach or marketing things that I did was go over to set up an appointment with the hospital administrators and go into their offices and basically tell them that they were my underserved population and show them how the library can help them really important business decisions. Luckily, the question they asked, I was able to conduct a quick search and come up with just the perfect article, which impressed the living daylights out of them, so that was really great. But this is the kind of stuff that we have to do. So I would have to say that the difference between a public or an academic library and a medical library is that we are not a place or an institution that provides programs. We're more of a service. So we really take our programs and our ideas and what we do to our patrons. And, sort of the last remark about it is that working at a special library, such as a hospital library, is kind of like running a small business. You really have to be a jack or Jill of all trades. And you have to be able to handle the various aspects of the job. And I think I'm pretty much done here. Mary mentioned her history at her library, so I don't want to deprive you of that. Actually, I have just had the 23rd anniversary of my working at my library, but I worked as a library tech there for the vast majority of it until I decided I needed to get my library degree and joined the MLIS program at SJSU, which I think was one of the best decisions I have made in my life, and I've really learned a lot and have been able to apply what I learned to my work every day. Thank you for listening, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Basha. That was awesome. Anybody have questions for Basha?
Basha, this is Mary. I just wondered if there were any courses, kind of piggybacking on the question earlier, that you took at SGSU that were preparatory for being a medical librarian, or if you've been there a long time, but if someone were starting out new, would they learn on the job, or are there courses they would take?
Well, you could do a little bit of both. I mean, increasingly you will probably see the special libraries like to hire people who already kind of know what they are doing, which can be sort of unfortunate, I think, in some ways. When I was at SJSU, there weren't really any, well, there was one medical librarianship course, but it was already a little bit, it was a little basic for what my needs would have been. However, I would highly recommend it if it is ever offered again to anybody who would want to consider a medical librarianship career. Let me plug in here a little bit. I don't know if Yael is writing about this or not, but did you not do a post, Yael, on special libraries and specifically medical librarianship classes? What would be worth taking? I think you did, right?
Last January, Heather and I did some research on this and actually presented a poster at a small medical librarian conference. And the truth is most programs don't offer specialized medical librarianship classes. There is one that is offered at SJSU. I think Dana just said it's become a 1-credit course, and it's not offered every semester. But we did create a one-page sort of web-page guide of different classes that are recommended if you're interested. So if you go online to the SJSU website, to the iSchool website, where they talk about special librarians, and then there's a place where you can find, I'll try to link to it, where you can find all the information that we collected on which classes you should take if you're interested. And this was, so we came out of the research that Heather and I did, and then we spoke to lots of medical librarians, and more specifically to the MLA, the local MLA chapter near where I am in San Francisco.
This is Dr. D. I have a couple things that I can add, is that the Medical Library Association has a tremendous number of absolutely superior courses being taught by medical library professionals that are accessible, and a lot of them travel. Also, the National Library of Medicine has a lot of things that are available going on either of those websites, the National Library of Medicine and the Medical Library Association. They have a tremendous amount of classes that will come to your area and that will be at professional meetings. I would suggest finding local and regional groups to join, and like always, volunteer in a medical library. You can have an incredible background by modeling, mentoring, etc. It's very easy. People in the medical library field are probably all librarians are nice, so I'll start with that, but medical librarians are particularly helpful for each other because we need the information very rapidly. So you have to have really, really good friends in order to get that very article that you need very quickly. It's a very, very friendly group, and they will share their information with you. It's an easy learn, let's just say. I'm a medical librarian by background, as you probably picked up from Basha.
I agree with Dr. D. It's a very collaborative group of people, and that's really great. I also wanted to say that I think, so going back quickly, yes, I took 285 with Cheryl Strandstrom, and it was very useful. I would encourage you to think of your classes slightly differently. Even if you did a research course, what was really useful to me about, for example, the 285 was in the instructional modules that I was developing. I needed to, in the field of medicine, and you know, you have to kind of develop a research question. There's a whole process of doing it, where you develop something called a PICO question, and that stands for population intervention, comparator, outcome, and time. And when people start out, they have a difficulty figuring out how to do a PICO, for example, right? And sometimes it's difficult to explain it to them. So even if you are very facile or experienced in research methods, what might be useful to you is the pedagogical side of the class. For example, I was able to take the sort of a question, some of the information we had in the book that we used, and I can't remember what the title of it was, maybe Brian does, but it was a great introduction to research methods book. Their recommendation for how to create a research question and then translate it into a PICO, so that you know, if somebody ever wants to see it, I'm happy to share these modules where I asked a research question using just kind of an everyday concepts, and then translated those into more medical, the medical framework. Another class that I really basically was taking only because I wanted to take another class with Michelle Simmons was the 254 class. And I know she's no longer there, but I'm assuming that there are other classes like that are being offered, which really I thought it was just going to be because I wanted to take another class from her because she was a great teacher. But as it turned out, as soon as I finished this class, I found myself developing these instructional, which is something I had not had any previous experience with. So I found myself developing these instructional modules and jumping into these different teaching situations where I was able to apply the skills that I had just learned to my everyday experience. And so I would like to kind of reinforce maybe what Laura said, which is take a broad selection of classes because you never really know what might be useful in your field. And, you know, of course, I loved 204 and all of those basic classes because the sort of grounding knowledge that you learn in that, you will use that every day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Masha. Okay, we're going to move along to Sweta. Sweta is our current assistant social media director, and she's going to talk to you now about Architecture Library and the Pacific Engineering Center.
Hi everyone, hope you can hear me. Let's move my slide here. So my name is Sweta Beta, and thanks for having me. I'm putting on my phone because I'm live tweeting this panel as we speak. But I wanted to talk to you about two special libraries that I used to work in San Francisco. This was back in the dark ages, sort of when the internet was just coming along. So not in like 90, 95, 96, 97, 98 as when I was there. And they were very different in nature from the two panelists that were speaking before me. And I think you enjoyed working in a corporate setting, these types of libraries would be of interest to you. So the first one I worked at was an architectural library, and it was a company named Invention of Architects, and they were like a mid-sized architecture firm, about 200 architecture like designers, architects, interior designers that worked there. And the company was right on like Market Street in San Francisco, and it had this beautiful little library in there. We said about architects that they like to have books with pretty pictures in them. So those are the types of books that I would be handling. My main job there, when I worked there, was I was a library assistant, and I would write periodicals. And after being there for a little while, I started moving on to doing the ordering and the purchasing for the library. And then from then, I got to do some really interesting work with research. The company mainly made built buildings for, or designed buildings for hospitals and medical office buildings, so not very exciting. But what was really neat was that they were trying to find different ways and integrate different designs. So this was an era where green building was very popular, and sustainability became just a buzzword and was becoming very popular. So I would start doing research on green building design and what type of building materials were sustainable, and so it led me to do research all around the Bay Area and specifically in San Francisco to find books or periodicals that pertained to the subject at hand for these architects. And it was a corporate setting, which I really did enjoy, and I worked there part-time while I was going to college. And in the architecture firm, there was always a budget constriction, but the library was pretty well funded because these architects would come in and check out books all the time and check out their periodicals and come to us for research. So I never felt like my job was at risk. One of the more fun research projects I did was we wanted to compete to design the new Bay Bridge plan that was in effect. And so there was a sort of a competition to see which architecture firms in the Bay Area wanted to design the new Bay Bridge. And so I got to do a lot of research on bridge design and new methods in bridge design. And there were it was very exciting, and I believe, if I remember this correctly, we came in second place. So it was close, but not quite there. And I always think about that when I'm driving across the Bay Bridge, thinking, what if this had been a design that, from a company where I used to work? So it was a really interesting job, and it kind of led into my next job, which is a job at the Pacific Energy Center. So the Pacific Energy Center, it's on like South of Market in San Francisco. And what they do there is they do energy savings education. And so I was able to sort of get this job because I had, a background in doing research on energy sustainability and green building design. And the corporate building also has a tool lending library, and there were lots of resources for educators. We had cool books on, like, making a house out of hay or using cork in your building design. That's some really interesting things where it would take me forever to catalog one book because I would just end up being fascinated by the subject. And it was sponsored by PG&E. We like to call it the PG&E Tax Write-Off Library. But, just the people that were there were very passionate about what they were doing, really, really passionate about energy savings education. The building itself had one room that was dedicated to different types of lighting and different types of, using different types of bulbs that would increase energy savings, and they even had courses on like food safety and less waste in food prep work. It was really, really neat, and the library was gorgeous. It was one of those things where because I worked in technical services for so long, we're always assigned to the garden level, or basically the basement. But this library had beautiful lighting coming through, natural lighting, and so it just felt like a great place to work, and I felt really good about what we were doing for our patrons. And as patrons, you could have drop-in patrons come in, and my jobs mainly consisted there of cataloging and doing research. And what was fun was having being in part of the educational programs where you'd have architects and interior designers and just, people who were building a house where they were just, really implementing green building design aspects into it. And they would come in for these educational programs, and just listening to them, talking to them, or things that just really stayed with me. So these two jobs are great, and I currently work in an academic library, which I also enjoy that environment very much. But these sort of corporate special libraries, I think, have a very special place in my heart, and they're really neat if you enjoy that type of environment, and especially if you're lucky enough, like I was, to work with some really great people. So that's it.
Thank
I have
you,
a question that
Jana.
looks like, yeah, sure. It looks like Kathleen's asking, did you partner with other libraries to expand your access to additional resources? With the architecture library, we did. We actually partnered with other corporate libraries. That there was a landscape architecture firm that also has a library there, and they really helped us in a lot of our research for landscape architecture. A lot of the research that we did was, there were libraries, for example, UC Berkeley has, an architecture program, and Worcester Hall, there's a library there, and we had access to some of the resources in Worcester Hall and UC Berkeley. So I was able to go there and conduct a lot of my research and get some help from their librarians. It's a very close-knit community and very supportive of each other, and sort of realizing that, we're all doing this really cool job, helping these architects build really cool things. So yeah, it was at the Pacific Energy Center that was sort of closed up from the other libraries, but in that library, there was always a fear of, we don't have enough resources, because sort of we were at the whim of whether PG&E had enough money to still support us, and so we would scrape by getting really creative. And I wish that we had access to more library support from other corporate libraries from there, from the Pacific Energy Center, but unfortunately we didn't. They're, two very sort of, even though similarly related libraries, they were very different in how they worked.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Sveta? Okay, seeing them, we'll move on to Heather. Heather is our immediate past secretary and archivist for the group, and she's going to talk about a special government library, the Yosemite Research Library. Take it away, Heather.
Thank you, Dana, and my name is Heather Kiger. I just completed a full year working in Yosemite National Park, and it is sad to leave, but at least I didn't change my slide over. Let me do that real quickly. There we go. So I am really grateful to have had this amazing experience, and I believe that somewhere an adventure exists to suit every librarian, and I encourage you to go find yours. And as a starting point, I'm going to share some info on the National Park Service, or NPS. A large number of NPS parks and monuments have special libraries as well as archives. We don't hear much about these libraries because A, they are generally not open to the public, B, they rarely have a web presence, and C, they are not reliably funded. Or if they are funded, they are not often staffed by MLIS holding librarians. So while there's not many jobs in NPS libraries, there is great potential for getting involved as a volunteer or intern, and this can be a path into other federal jobs and agencies you might not have previously considered or known about. If you already love spending vacations in the national parks, why not build up your library or archival resume with some federal experience while you're there? And then when a desirable job does come along there, you already have connections and experience in that environment. And many of the NPS libraries rely on volunteers just to keep their doors open. Yosemite's Research Library, however, has had the very experienced and talented librarian Virginia Sanchez on staff for the past couple years, and she's making major strides to modernize the library and make it relevant and usable for anyone interested in studying Yosemite. The library was awarded a grant for 2016 that covered the cost of 2 interns coming in to complete modernization projects. One was the creation of a library website, which was completed by fellow iSchool grad Melissa Gross, when that went live last month. My project was to bring technical services processes up to date, primarily in converting the library collections from Dewey Decimal to Library of Congress classification. And unfortunately, there isn't funding for interns this year, but the SJSU SLA group will be collaborating with the library for short-term service learning visits, so make sure you are subscribed to SLASC social media accounts to find out when these get scheduled. Now, it's a very interesting time to work within a federal agency, as you might imagine, as the individuals who comprise these agencies struggle to reconcile professional values, personal politics, and administrative directives. But this is an ethical conflict that many librarians have to face in non-federal libraries as well. So it is worthwhile to build your own professional stance on these issues prior to starting a library job. I don't have any information on the current gag order in the federal government. It hasn't had an impact on this library's operations so far. I just know that federal librarians believe in the values of our profession and will find ways to uphold them. For more information on applying your LIS skills in various kinds of government jobs, I highly recommend looking up Virginia Sanchez's career colloquium on the iSchool website, which she recorded before she became the Yosemite librarian. Just type in Virginia Sanchez in the search bar, and it's going to be among the first results you see. Now here I have provided a list of links on the left for putting your LIS skills to use in federal agencies. Note that most national parks also work with nonprofit partners, so check with the websites of individual parks for links and special opportunities that are hosted by these partner organizations. Within some parks, there's also a county public library branch. Yosemite is so big that it has 2 public library branches almost an hour away from each other in addition to this research library. So look into the relevant county government websites for info as well. Volunteer.gov is a hub for federal volunteering, but many individual agencies and parks have their own sites as well. The best advice I can give is to apply early, be flexible, and visit before making a lengthy commitment. Another option I highly recommend is the Pathways program on usajobs.gov. This is an excellent way to get in the door with the feds in a relevant paid position, either as a student or a recent graduate. There aren't tons of library and archives positions, but they do come up, and I'm in the running for one of them right now, so I know it is worth keeping your eye on these. SCA is the Student Conservation Association, which is a great source for internships involving GIS, cultural resource preservation, and education in the national parks. The Federal and Armed Forces Library Roundtable, or FAFLRT, is the place to go in ALA for learning more from working librarians in this field. Please visit the Yosemite Research Library's website to learn more about this awesome little space and its collections. And if you don't want to write down the URL, just do a quick web search for YRL Yosemite and it'll come up for you. Finally, if you'd like to learn more about my specific internship experience in Yosemite, my blog is listed on the right. Or feel free to contact me through email at heather.c.kiger@gmail.com or connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to ask me anything or further discuss adventures in librarianships. And that is all that I have for that. I thank you for listening.
Any questions for Heather? Wonderful.
I think
Thank
it's
you.
amazing. I think it's amazing that Heather, thank you, Heather, for telling us all about this, and I'm still in awe of this whole Yosemite thing.
Kate's asking if Virginia's the full-time librarian there.
Yes, she is. She is the only full-time person in the other than the director of the museum branch who is full-time without required furlough. So she does have to leave for Naval Reserve duty from time to time, but she is there all week, every week generally.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And as we mentioned in the chat, we are trying to put together another group to go up there, possibly in the spring. Mary is bringing that together, and Jonathan, our programs team. So join us in the SLA student chapter, and if you're interested in that, you can definitely be something you can do with us. Okay, so next up we have Brian Elliott, and Brian is also a past president of our chapter, and he is also involved in medical librarianship, so I'm going to let him present to you. Take it away, Brian.
All right, thanks a lot. Yes, like Basha, I too work in a medical library, and as she said, my name is Brian Elliott. I live and work in Portland, Oregon, where I work for the Kaiser system. My duties are a lot different than Basha's. She's much more involved in searching and teaching. Oh, thank you. For staff, my position, I am actually an accidental librarian. I had a very different career trajectory planned. My job at the medical library was part-time at first, and over the years it grew into a full-time situation. I had previously studied computer science and engineering before changing my focus to art, of which I have 2 degrees. And just over the years, the medical librarianship kind of just took over. So actually it is a book title, The Accidental Medical Librarian, and it's a good read. So my focus was more technical services, and I just kind of followed that, just took on those responsibilities in the library. My colleagues, there were only 3 of us, they had they had less interest in doing that stuff, and I was really happy to take it on, especially with keeping our electronic journal access up and running. The major part of my job at the library is running the TOC service, or Table of Contents service. And what that is physicians mainly, but also nurses, managers, anybody who works at the hospital will contact me and tell me what journals they want to see. And I will send them an email with hot links to those journal articles, whenever it's published, monthly or quarterly, whatever. And I clean up the email that comes from the publisher and then send that out to distribution lists. Last year, through just simple word of mouth marketing, I increased the number of patrons by 9%, which was the largest increase that I've had in the 19 years I've been running the service in 1 year. So that was exciting. I've got over 300 patrons, and I distribute over 210 or so titles. So it's a large service. My patrons love it and find it indispensable, even if they can't read every article, and nobody really can. They like it for the fact that it just keeps them up to date with what's going on in the medical world. What's the conversation in their specialty. So besides sending that out and keeping our journals connected, that's kind of what happened to me. I was the person who was first to know that something was broken, and I was the first to jump in and try to fix it. So just taking on those kind of responsibilities are what got me to where I am now. I also participate in several committees. The marketing committee is one of them. Technical services and emerging technologies are the other two. Last year at a Medical Library Association meeting, I co-authored and co-presented a paper on marketing in our library environment. We recently consolidated all of our purchasing to a single Kaiser facility in Northern California. So I went from about 250 titles in print to this year I only have 2. So I've seen some history with that, and we definitely have more shelf space now. Other than that, the environment is very similar to what Bosch is in. We have 2 hospital libraries, one in Clackamas, Oregon, one in Hillsboro. They're both located within the hospital proper. It's just a traditional kind of placement for those, kind of a holdover from the print days when physicians would actually wander into the library and read. Now I think about 90% of my interaction with staff is through email. So yeah, it's a lot of computer work. Other than that, that's all I've got. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Okay, it looks like Shelley might be typing. Here we go. Do you work from home or do you have an actual library space, Shelley's asking.
Yes, we do have libraries. They're rather small, but yeah, most of the time we're working from there. Recently, during inclement weather and because of computer upgrades, we're actually able to work from home since it is mainly an email system. We are having some issues with specifically my TOC service in distributing the table of contents. Some of the publishers' links don't break and others do, so we have some work to do there.
Great. Any other questions for Brian? All right. Thanks so much, Brian. That was wonderful. Moving on to Yael. Yael is our current Director of Social Media, and she's going to be talking to you now about her work as an ordering specialist over at Stanford University. Danielle, you ready?
Oh, sorry. I thought I was talking to you, and I guess I was talking to myself.
No, we can hear you. There you go. We can hear you.
Okay. Good now? Can you hear me? Okay. So before I tell you about my current job, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I ended up where I am. I moved to California about 7 years ago from Israel, where I actually worked as a librarian. I worked also as a medical librarian, like some of my colleagues here. And but my last job before moving was in a academic library in a small private college. I'd hoped to continue working as a librarian when I moved here, only to discover that my degree from overseas was not recognized by the American Library Association. And I tried all sorts of other things. I had various other jobs, started my own business, really did all sorts of things, but realized I really wanted to go back to being a librarian. So 2 years ago I started the program, and I think it might have even been my first semester when I came to my first SLA student chapter meeting and got roped into doing social media by our wonderful past president, Basha, who can convince anybody to do anything. I'm sure of it. So really, and joining this chapter has really been one of the best decisions of this whole thing. I'm really glad I'm back in school. I'm glad I'm back in librarianship, and I'm really glad I'm part of this group. So my current job, what is an ordering specialist? So Stanford University has something, I think 21 libraries, and the acquisitions department where I work does the ordering and the acquisitions for all of the libraries except for the medical library, the law library, and the business library, which who do their own technical services. So basically, our department is responsible for the selection and the purchase of all materials and resources. We work with different vendors. We negotiate pricing. We arrange standing orders, select individual titles. And the way this is done is we have special, what we call them selectors, special subject librarians who work within the library. And they are the ones who actually choose what we're going to purchase, which books or which movies or which serials they want to, which journals they would like us to acquire. And then they pass that information on to the ordering specialists. And we then have to find which vendors to purchase from, negotiate pricing, and things like that. Similar to what Laura described in the beginning of where she talked about cataloging and how they used to do things at Calgary. We also are separated into different subjects. I work, because of my knowledge of the language, I work on all the Hebrew and Judaica collections. And I also work with linguistics, sociology, and psychology, and British and American literature. We purchase everything. Obviously books and journals, but we do film. We have a librarian. We have a very extensive music library, so one of our ordering specialists buys scores and recorded music. We buy maps, posters, letters, diaries, really anything you can come up with, we will probably buy for our library if it's been printed in some way or can somehow make an addition to the collection. Surprising to me when I got the job was how much cataloging I have to do. Most of it is copy cataloging because most of what we buy is pretty straightforward. Books or serials that exist in other libraries, but the interesting part is when we get to purchase special collection items, usually things that don't exist in other places, then we have to do some original cataloging. I'm always worried about that, but then my colleagues always remind me that it will go through cataloging again, and it will go through metadata, and it will make sure all the information is there before the patrons see it, so I don't have to worry. So really, like I said, the most interesting part are the special collections. One of the things we do this way is we buy entire collections of things, or often are gifted collections from people. So we get to see all sorts of interesting things and then figure out how we want to keep them in the library. We then often will pass this on to our special collections department and the rare books department, or the digitizing department, which will then digitize these things so they will actually be accessible to the public. One of the most interesting things two of the most interesting things that I've had to work on recently are the Elliott Robinson Tel Aviv collection, which has actually been at Stanford for a while, but we've just added 3 more boxes. And it really, like it says here on my slide, it's an eclectic mix of materials related to the history of Tel Aviv. We have census materials, there are movie posters, there are photographs, municipal documents, land deeds, really so many different things that I can't even list them all here. And it will take us a long time, but eventually it will all be digitized and accessible. At the moment, if you want to see it, you have to, it sits in a special storage facility. You have to order it and wait for 2 days, and then you can come to our special collections reading room to look at it. Another fascinating thing that I spent probably half a day trying to figure out how to catalog was the Ktp of Future Library, which is actually an art project. That what we actually have in the library is a certificate that says that we own a complete set of these texts, but these are texts that will only be published 100 years from now. And it's actually, nobody knows what's written on them. Different authors are being asked to participate. Margaret Atwood wrote the first one, and at the same time as every year a different author or poet is writing a text, at the same time a forest has been planted in Norway, and in 100 years from the date they started, they will cut down the forest to make the paper to then print these books that nobody will see until that day. So really, the special collections are definitely worth visiting. So that's my job in a nutshell. Any questions?
Looks like Olivia might be typing. Oh, she's commenting.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got comments. Also, lots of awesome comments, no questions, it looks like.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely suits David Mitchell's writing and Margaret Atwood. And the third one, they just added someone, and he's actually a Icelandic author who I'd never heard about, but now I want to read his books, because if the first 2 are authors that I like, that I definitely want to look into the third.
Susan's asking, are the selectors also librarians?
Some of them, they are currently librarians working in the library. They don't all necessarily have MLIS degrees. The librarian, 2 of the librarians that I work with, the librarian that I work on the Judaica with, he is a librarian, and the librarian who's in charge of the literature, the British and American literature, she's also a librarian. They also both have advanced degrees in their fields. And then the librarian who's in charge of the psychology and sociology collection is actually a professor of sociology, and this is her first time. She just got hired recently, and it's her first time working in the library. So it's been interesting, because since both of us are relatively new. Yes, Lori, faculty definitely have a say in acquisitions. We buy whatever we're really lucky. Stanford doesn't have to worry about their library budget. And we really will buy anything pretty much that a professor says that they need for a class. And we'll buy extra copies if, to put them on reserve if necessary. We will do rush ordering if a book went missing and they need it, for class next week. We will do everything we can to get our hands on it in time. And really, I've spoken to a number of faculty at the university, and they say that really, one of the best things for them as professors working at the university is that they know that they have full support of the library and of the university in their research. If they say they need something for their then we will buy it. That's what we're there for.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Yes, and I get what you guys are jealous about budget, because I've worked in libraries without budgets before, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay. I don't see any other questions, so we'll move on. Last but not least, here is Will, and he's going to talk to you about the library. He's actually our current webmaster, and he's going to talk to you about his special library, which focuses on labor.
Okay, folks, thanks for hanging in there. I apologize in advance if my voice is a little bit raspy. I lost my voice 2 days ago and I'm still recovering, so I'm going to try and keep this relatively short and sweet anyway. So my name is Will Shepard. Thank you for the introduction. I'm the current webmaster for JSU's SLA group, and I currently work at Catherwood Library, which supports the New York School of Industrial and Labor Relations at Cornell University as a reference assistant. We consider ourselves to be, quote, the most comprehensive resource in North America on labor and employment, unquote. That sounds impressive, but first I want to give you a sense of the scale that we're talking about here. So the Professional Association for Industrial Relations Librarians is a group called CURL, which internationally has 25 member libraries and approximately 100 to 125 members across the globe. So we're a fairly small group. About 10 to 15% of those members work at the library that I work at or are retired from the library that I work at. So we have a fairly substantial hunk of the population. As far as what we do, you know, you hear a labor and unions library, and you think that, you know, we're looking at, well, unions pretty exclusively. But we support, and while a lot of our collections do specialize in unions, we have an in-house archive, the Kiel Center, that houses the collections from several unions, including things like, you know, the knives that textile workers used to cut textiles in New York City in the 1920s. We focus more broadly on the world of labor and employment. What does that mean? It means that we look at things like human resources, you know, labor statistics, labor economics, labor law. It's a really it sounds like a really narrow field, but it's incredibly interdisciplinary. There are three basic types of labor libraries. There are straight union libraries, corporate libraries, BNA is probably the biggest one, and academic libraries like the one that I work at. And academic libraries, for the most part, investigate not just unions, but the world of work writ large. You know, one of the things that I think a lot of people miss when they hear something like a School of Industrial and Labor Relations, they immediately assume that our mission is to support unions and develop union leaders. Our mission is to equip people working in human resources, people working for unions, and everybody in between to participate in the workplace and to try and support labor peace in general. Pardon. So, what do I do on a day-to-day? I work a reference desk in an academic library. So, I spend most of my time fielding questions from undergraduates, graduate students, and faculty members looking for information on the world of work. The one kind of interesting thing that differentiates us from a lot of academic libraries is if you Google labor library, we're probably the second result, right behind the Department of Labor. If you search for a collective bargaining agreement between a local union and a company, there's a decent chance that we may be the only people who have a copy of it, and we have it posted in our digital commons. What this means is that we get a lot of very strange phone calls in addition to your standard academic reference questions, which can be everything from people trying to find information on a company that they want to work for to somebody trying to track down their grandfather's pension. So it's can be quite interesting. Andrea, to answer your question, we do not formally work with the Labor Department, but we do a lot of work with Bureau of Labor Statistics, stats in particular, and we absolutely call them a lot. A lot of our researchers do a lot of work with government information, and we do have an ongoing kind of exchange of info back and forth with them. Actually, the labor library community is a small enough one that we will occasionally get calls. You know, a year ago we got a call from BNA asking us if we had a copy of one of their books from 30 years ago that they had destroyed. And it turns out we did. So it's there's a lot of back and forth between the different libraries. How do you become a labor librarian? There are kind of two routes that people seem to take. One of which is you just kind of fall into it. As you can imagine, most of these jobs are posted asking for people with backgrounds in labor and employment or labor economics or labor history. But to be frank, the intersection of people who have a background in labor and a library degree is a relatively small pool. So pretty commonly people with degrees in related fields end up applying for and getting jobs and developing an expertise in labor and employment. Two in particular are business librarians, there's some crossover with, and law librarians, because we do a lot of work with labor and employment law. The other route that some people take is they start in labor unions and make the transition to libraries. Two of us who work at the library I'm at are former researchers for labor unions. I was a researcher for a union out in Las Vegas and Washington, D.C. for a few years after undergrad, and happened to move to the Ithaca area where I'm based now, and discovered there was a labor library here after I moved here and that they just happened to be hiring. So that worked out very nicely for me. Another one of my colleagues who has a background in the labor movement was a public librarian who began working as a volunteer for the union that repped her library. Eventually spent some time working as a researcher for that union, and then moved back into libraries at an academic labor library. So those are kind of the two paths that people take to get there. Anyway, it's a really fascinating subfield. It's a nice blend of a traditional academic library with the usual reference questions, but just enough different to keep you on your toes. Anyway, I'll stop chattering now. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to fire away. Andrea, absolutely. So we put a pretty high priority on public access. Cornell is kind of a weird private school. It's actually half private, half public. It's only land grant Ivy, and the ILR school is on the public side. So we actually have an obligation to support New York State residents in addition to direct affiliates. And in practice, since if you call us, you're probably up a creek, we tend to help people who are not directly affiliated, as long as it's not, you know, a subscription resource like Business Source Complete or Lexis or whatever. We also have a pretty substantial digital commons called DC at ILR. If any of you are curious, if you Google it, it should pop up. And there's a lot of research in there, as well as some government documents and collective bargaining agreements. Oh boy, the strangest request that I've fielded. Boy. It might be an ongoing research it's not the weirdest question. I've got some weird questions about people. We get a lot of calls from concerned citizens trying to find the collective bargaining agreements that prove that their police officers are being overpaid. But I'm not sure that's kind of the most strange, interesting request. The most interesting one is probably an extended minimum wage project that a student over at has been working on with a faculty member, looking at trying to track down the minimum wage in all 50 states, which sounds like a really thank you, Bathia, which sounds like a really simple question. But every state has its own minimum wage that adjusts annually in some cases because they're indexed to the Consumer Price Index. Some states have a tipped non-minimum wage, and a non-tipped minimum wage. Some states exempt businesses under a certain size from their minimum wage. So trying to pin down exactly what the minimum wage is for a particular group of people in a given state is incredibly complicated. The guy's been working on it for about 1.5 years, and he keeps coming back with these like weird little statistical quirks that he keeps digging out. The other one is we get a lot of people trying to track down collective bargaining agreements, which sounds simple, but if it's between a private company and a private union, they are private agreements, so there's no requirement to disclose them. So there are a lot of kind of fun tricks that you can use to try and dig up the agreements by digging through, different public sites, indexes of websites, that sort of thing. And yes, actually, New York has a pretty high minimum wage, so he's in pretty good shape as an RA.
Okay, any other questions for Will? There's Wesley's got one.
It's fair to say that we are a little bit of a politically complicated institution, especially since, as I said, we have human resources faculty and straight up, as left-wing as you can go, labor union activist faculty. It can be a little bit tense sometimes between those two groups. Our policy as the library has always been that we collect information and we make it available, and if collecting that information is politically challenging, our priority is still to collect information and make it available. And that's something that we have run into recently. Does that answer your question?
Okay, anybody else? All right, thanks, Will. That was great. Okay, everybody, if you'll hang around for a minute, we'll phase into kind of the social hour and, of course, the door prize drawings. And Laura's put together a little icebreaker for us. You want to go ahead, Laura?
Sure. So if you could tell us your name, your location, and the title of or author of a book you've recently read or are planning to read. So I'll start. My name's Laura Dublé, and I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And the most recent book I've read is A Dangerous Fortune by Ken Follett. So maybe we can just go down the way our names are appearing in the room.
Would it be Mary next then?
Sure.
Okay, I'm Mary Vasudeva, and I live in San Ramon, California, and I just finished reading White Trash, the 400-year untold history of class in America.
Okay, Sveta.
So my name is Sveta Beda. I live in Moraga, California, and I'm actually currently knee-deep in guidebooks as I'm planning a trip to Japan.
Okay, Will.
Hi, I'm Will Shepard. You just listened to me talk a lot. And I live in Ithaca, well, I live in Candor, New York, which is about a village of 800 people outside of Ithaca, New York. And I am currently about to start reading Playing Against the House, which is a book written by a undercover union organizer, Assault, who was planted at a casino in Florida, and about his experience doing that. And I used to work for the union that the guy was assaulting for, so it's extra interesting to me.
Okay, Yael.
Hi, I'm Yael Hood, and I live in Sunnyvale, California, which is about, I don't know, a 10-minute drive from the San Jose State University campus. And I just started reading The City of Mirrors by Justin Cronin. I feel like the anti-intellectual here because it's about vampires, sort of. It's the third book in a trilogy that I'm really enjoying. The first one's called The Passage. And I'm also going to apologize and say that I'd love to stay, but I'm going to have to go because I have kids clamoring at my door who want attention. So I really enjoyed this panel, really listening to my colleagues and getting to know more about what they do. And I hope to see you all at the next event. Bye.
Thanks, Yael. You did great.
This is Dr. D. I'm going to jump in right now, if you don't mind, and say I'm really delighted to have you all here. I've enjoyed listening to everyone. Everyone did a fantastic job. I am delighted to see students that I have right now and past students, which is very exciting. And since I have very bad jet lag, having just gotten in from almost the West Coast, and it is on Eastern Time, I see that we have some other Eastern Timers here, so it's about 11, and I think I will say a fond farewell, and thanks again for being here. I enjoy being the faculty advisor, and I hope you all will join and come back and see us again. I think this was a fantastic meeting tonight. My congratulations to those who put it together. Thank you for all your hard work, and thanks again so much for being here.
Thanks, Dr. D. Thanks for attending.
Hi, this is Amy Nightcamp. I am one of the Assistant Directors of Communication, and I live in Rohnert Park, California, which is about an hour north of San Francisco. I'm currently finishing up a book called The Professor and the Madman, and it's the subtitle is something like Murder, Mayhem, and the Making of the Oxford English Dictionary. I don't remember the author, but it's a great book, and I highly recommend it.
Can you hear me?
We hear you, Andrea.
Okay, my name's Andrea, and I am from Fresno, California, and I just recently read Not Dead Yet by Phil Collins. It's a great book. Yeah, it is.
Hi everyone, I'm Christabella Harding, and I'm about to start reading Musicophilia by Oliver Sacks. And I live in Topanga, California.
Hi all, I'm Danielle Boast. I live in El Centro, California. It's about 2 hours south of San Diego. And I'm about to start a book called Death World. It's a historical reader and primary source book involving stories about deaf people.
Gerard?
Oh, hi, my name is Gerard Collins. I live in Burbank, California, and I just finished a book called A Thousand Cuts, The Bizarre Underground World of Collectors and Dealers Who Save the Movies by author Dennis Bartok.
Hi, I'm Gina. I'm from Sierra Madre, California, near Pasadena, and I just read a little bit older book called Let the Great World Spin by Colin McCann.
Hi, my name is James Tyner. I'm from Fresno, California, and I'm currently reading a horror collection by Librarian called The Imago Sequence.
Hi, my name is Kate, and I am the Communications Director here for SLASC. I am reading several things all at one time, obviously. One, I'm in the middle of a young adult series. The first one is called The Selection, and then it goes on from there. It's actually really interesting. It's like sort of YA romance-ish, but also like talks a lot about class and stuff like that. And I'm also reading something called The Reader, which is another young adult novel, and about 16,000 cookbooks at the moment is what feels like are open on my coffee table because my husband is having some allergy issues, so we're learning new dinner options.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Campbell. I'm also on the East Coast. I'm in Chesapeake, Virginia. And so I may be bowing out. It is about 11 o'clock in the evening here. So it's past my bedtime. But the book that I read was Born a Crime. It's by Trevor Noah, and it's all about his coming of age during apartheid.
Hey guys, my name is Lindsay. I live in Culpeper, Virginia. If you guys have no idea where that is, that's okay. It's about 2 hours away from Richmond, so I'll give you a general idea. Let's see, books. I haven't read all that much lately, to be honest. Just been too busy. But I like fantasy stuff mostly. I'm a very picky reader. But yeah, that's all about me. Okay.
Hi. Sorry. Hi, I'm Neil Cassidy. I live in Loomis, California, and I am currently reading Star Wars Aftermath Life Debt, which is part of the new canon. By Chuck Linden, I believe.
Hi, my name's Olivia, and I'm in Trabuco Canyon, California, and I recently read the Book of Speculation by Erica Swiler.
Hi, I'm Rod Muller. I live in Aviv, California, and I'm currently reading a book about the architect Louis Kahn called Beyond Time and Style.
Hi everyone, my name is Shelley. I'm from Oakland, California, and I just finished reading The Last Stop in Montreal by Emily St. John Mandel. It's really good. I read it in about 2 sittings.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Acal. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the book that I just finished is actually a book of essays called Trace, Memory, History, Race, and the American Landscape by Laurette Savoy.
Hi everyone, I'm Sunny Bacala. I live in Monterey, California, and I'm currently reading ABC by W. Nichols, and it's a really crazy non-fiction book about cats. Very interesting.
Okay, Susan?
I think Susan had said she didn't have a mic.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, thanks. I forgot. Wesley.
Hello, everybody. My name is Wesley Fulton. I work at the San Jose Public Library System, various branch. And when I don't have my nose in a textbook for school, I'm usually reading mental junk food, such as the East and West of the alternate history series by Harry Turtledove. I hope you're all having a good night.
Okay, we missed people at the top of this list. Basha.
Well, hello, my name is Basha Daraska Elliott. I live in Portland, Oregon. I just finished reading a book by Peter Rock entitled The Abandonment. It's about a father and daughter who it's based on a true story of a father and daughter who lived for 4 years in Forest Park here in Portland, and then were resettled somewhere and then disappeared. And the next thing I'll be reading is a book called Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City by Matthew Desmond, which is part of our Everybody Reads series here at the Multnomah County Library.
Brian?
Hey, I'm Brian Elliott. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I am currently reading Jan Potocki's The Manuscript Found in Saragossa. It's a Penguin classic, and it's really good and surreal.
Hi, my name is Dana, and I'm in San Jose, California. And I just finished a book called The Invention of Nature, and it's about Alexander von Humboldt, the individual who came up with the original idea of nature being entirely connected instead of just all these disjointed parts and pieces. It was a fascinating book. And I'm getting ready to start the book someone else is reading, which is the Book of Speculation.
Hello, I'm Heather. I am currently in Bakersfield, California, and getting ready to read a book just published by a fellow volunteer at the Yosemite Library named Anne Catherine. The book is a novel called The Yesterday Doctor.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, and I live in Orange, California, which is just about 15 minutes away from Disneyland. And I am currently reading Everything is Miscellaneous for Info 201, I think. And I'm really enjoying that book. And then once I finish that, I've got a couple books in the pipeline, but the next one I think is going to be Tesla by Margaret Cheney, about the famous inventor Nikola Tesla. So I'm very excited about that.
Excellent, wonderful. So one of the prizes we wanted to give away, we have these wonderful iSchool mugs, was someone who's not on the executive committee, excluding the executive committee, who is the farthest away from San Jose State. And I was hearing our ladies from Virginia. Does that sound like the people who are farthest away? Lindsay just left, so that would be Kathleen in Chesapeake. Yay! Okay, so I'm putting in my email here. And so if you will email me your address, I will send you a mug. It's a San Jose State University iSchool mug, travel mug. It's pretty slick and cool. So if you'll send me your email to that, or send me your address, your mailing address to that email, then I'll send you a mug. Lindsay, good, you were the other one. You're in Virginia, right? Okay, same thing. For you and Kathleen are the ones, not counting executive committee, who are the farthest from the university. So we'll be sending you an SJSU iSchool mug, and if you'll send me your mailing address to that email, spinbus@gmail.com, I'll get those in the mail to you. So we have some other door prizes, and I can just draw them out at random if you want. You guys can chat amongst yourselves or whatever, and I can type them in the chat box. And then the same deal for everybody who wins. Send me your mailing address to the email, and I will mail you your prize. We have some really cool little wooden bookmarks that say SJSU iSchool, and then we also have some keychains. So we have about 8 more prizes to give away. Am I giving away doors? Did I say doors? Can you tell I'm tired? Oh, door prizes. I got you. Giving away doors. Okay. So this will be for a bookmark. And if they've already signed out, I'll try and track them down. Janice Tim is going to get a bookmark. Yay, Janice. And I'll try and find her, because I know she's already checked out. Olivia! Keychain for Olivia. Make sure you send me your email or your mailing address. Danielle, you also get a keychain. Okay, Gina's got a question. First semester MLS entered in special librarianship, music librarianship. Mary, this sounds like a job for you. Mary also has an interest in music librarianship. Am I right? No, not a keychain for everybody. Who in our group is one of our new folks has an interest in music librarianship? I'm not remembering who. Amy, I'm sorry, it's Amy. Neil gets a bookmark. Gerard gets a keychain. Christabella gets a keychain. Kathleen also gets a keychain. Kathleen Campbell. Actually, she won a mug, so we'll put her back in and we'll draw something else. Stephanie gets a keychain. And we have one more bookmark. Andrea Pritchett gets the last bookmark. Yay! All right, guys, make sure you send me your mailing addresses so I can get you your fabulous prizes.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.